I'm Eddie Brophy.
I'm Jason Smith.
We are, well, Mark's on Mania this evening.
Indeed.
We are the hosts of Mark's on Commentary, and Jason has organized a complete collection of WrestleManias he would like to talk about, well, in video, not in podcast form this time. So we're going to give you some of our personal highlights from every WrestleMania in a relatively concise video, but we figured this one's going to be one of the easiest, but probably the one we're going to have to work the hardest to keep the shortest, because obviously this is WrestleMania 14. Mm-hmm. It took place in Boston, our hometown. It's the last time a WrestleMania was ever hosted in Boston. And for the stats, Jason, what do you got for me?
All right, let's see. March 29th, 1998, formerly the FleetCenter, now the TD Garden.
Don't get confused about that. It was the FleetCenter, the TD Bank Garden, North Garden, now the Garden again.
Mm-hmm. Boston, Mass, obviously. Attendance, 19,028.
Wow. Now, the cool thing about this event was just how all the storylines, it just all culminated. Obviously, I'm biased because it took place in Boston, but I really do feel like this was the definitive Mania in terms of how well all the storylines worked out on the biggest stage. Of course, you had Kane showing up. He made his introduction to Bad Blood, and he had the big match with Undertaker. Mm-hmm. Of course, you had Mike Tyson, Steve Austin, and Michaels, the championship match, which JR proclaimed was the Austin era has begun.
Definitely.
Which, the following night, that's essentially, for most people, when the Attitude Era really took off. So, I mean, in terms of personal highlights, there are so many. One of my favorites was the Ken Shamrock Rock match for the Intercontinental title. You had the European title match with Owen Hart and Triple H. I mean, I can go on and on. Were there personal highlights for you?
It's got to be Taka. I know. Taka Michinoku is Taka Michinoku, but he was one of my favorites growing up. Something about him, just the move sets, everything. I miss that guy. I want him back for another WrestleMania, but...
Well, he did eat a lot of mat at the Royal Rumble. I don't know. Obviously, they just kind of weed him out because... Well, that's the thing with this WrestleMania was the light heavyweight championship. This was the first time I'd ever seen it defended. I mean, of course...
It's the only time the light heavyweight championship was ever defended at WrestleMania.
There you go. I mean, I think that's cool because it really showcased that you didn't have to be one of the bigger guys. It was such... It was going away from the earlier WrestleManias where you had the big chiseled guys and the larger-than-life personas. This was really about the athletes in the ring. And, of course, with this match, it was very methodical. It was all athleticism, high-risk moves. And, of course, I love this match because one of my favorite, later on, Essa Rios was the masked man in this match. But, I mean, going back, was there anything that, when you see this WrestleMania, aside from the fact that it was in Boston and it was the definitive Attitude Era WrestleMania, was there anything that really, I don't know, that you would have fixed? How would you have booked it differently? Was there a match that should have been on the card that wasn't?
Let's see. I had written some notes down. It's not so much that they did it wrong or it wasn't the right thing for the time, but you have, let's see, Rock and Shamrock, and you also have, for the European title, you have Triple H and Owen. I would have switched some of the opponents around. I would have given, who did I say here? Shamrock, I would have given him to Triple H.
That would have been
a nice match. And then you would have also had The Rock versus Owen Hart for the Intercontinental title.
That would have been an interesting move, I think. So, looking back on it now, I mean, not to say that there was anything wrong with the way those matches were booked. And, of course, I loved the ending of the Rock-Shamrock match, obviously. That was a different time in wrestling where it was more brutal and they went more theatric with the blood and, more dramatic with, obviously, Shamrock not letting go of the hold and making it seem like, oh my God, he's really breaking his leg. I love the Goldust and Luna versus Mark Barrow and Sable match, and you're giving me a disapproving look.
I am. I don't care for that match.
I liked it. Well, for me, this was one of, aside from 8, which I've said earlier on the show, this is one of the first WrestleManias I'd ever seen. I think this is the second Mania I'd seen. Actually, I'm wasting time here trying to remember which WrestleMania I saw first, but this is one of the first Manias I saw first. And I just thought the idea of a mixed tag match at an event because it wasn't like the Divas division of today. And I said this to a guy on Twitter recently. I said, the difference between the Divas now and the Divas then was Sable was a great athlete. She was beautiful, but she was a great athlete. Luna was a great, and this is a nice way of saying she was kind of ugly, but she was a great character diva, but a respectable athlete as well. So it was nice to have a match where the women were on the same level, arguable TV tracks worthy. They were on the same level as the guys were. It was equal footing in my mind. And the artist formerly known as Goldust, it was a weird time for him, but he was still working out that character and doing and trying. he was taking risks with that character, and I think that's what I really liked. And I'm a snob for stuff like that, so it paid off. It wasn't quite the light heavyweight title match, and it wasn't quite the main event or the Kane Undertaker match, but the pageant, there was still the spirit of the 80s pageantry in this, but with a 90s edge to it.
Okay, I'll buy that.
How would we get our hands on WrestleMania 14? Jason, of course, is going to go the WWE Network route. Of course, he was showing me screenshots from all the promos and endorsements they left in. And then he's gonna hold up his box set on DVD. And
Well, first, I'll actually hold up my favorite tape. Is the VHS copy of WrestleMania 14.
And he surprised me because he's holding a VHS copy, which
This
is
is
the
my first tape. This is the first thing I've ever bought. So this is very. I've mentioned this before. It's very near and dear to my heart.
That was the second tape I bought. The first tape I ever bought was SummerSlam '98, then followed by this one.
But for any fans that want to go out there, it's very tough right now to find a copy because that's in great quality. Because anything out there, for some reason, when they re-released WrestleManias in 2013, they didn't include WrestleMania 14 without blurred logos. So
I remember that during the WWE 24/7 station, where that was when they lost a lawsuit against World Wildlife, and it was just kind of obnoxious because I felt like that's the cool thing about the WWE Network is now they have free reign to show all the older tapes without, because you can imagine the amount of hours they probably had to go back and so. That's kind of cool. I liked getting my hands on something, which you obviously can now, but if you're still nostalgic for VHS, that's pretty cool. But I like the idea of getting my hands on something that's completely just unedited,
raw.
Not compromised. Yeah, raw, just the way you remember seeing it.
But if anybody actually wants to go out and own it, I'd recommend, if you're on a budget, to go get the complete Volume 3 of the anthology. If you got a little bit more cash, you can get a Region 2 UK Silver Vision release. It actually has the free-for-all included into it. So
that's pretty cool.
So it's a little bit more money, but if you're that kind of fan that wants to go out there and get that, that's how I'd recommend getting hold of it.
Personally, I think it'd be worth the money, if you ask me. But that's when we toss it to you at MO Commentary on Twitter. 978-276-9418 is the voicemail number. Any particular moments, matches, or memories from WrestleMania 14 that you'd like to share with us. In the meantime, I'm Eddie Brophy.
I'm Jason Smith.
We are Marks on Mania, formerly known as Marks on Commentary. We'll talk to you later.